Welcome to Excel Tips. My name is Neale Blackwood, and in this video we're going to see how we can create our own functions in Excel. These are called custom functions. They require the subscription version of Excel, and we're going to use the LAMBDA function. Now, I have covered the LAMBDA function in previous videos and articles. In today's video, we're going to look at how we can sum a spill range and also how we can handle financial years and return the financial year, the month, and the quarter. Before we dive in, I'll quickly go through the structure that we've got that we're going to work with here. So I've got a summary report here, which is summarizing this data set in the GL data sheet. And basically, we have the ability to change these yellow cells so that the report updates. Notice that the format doesn't always spill. So when you're creating spill ranges, you do need to be aware that if your spill range is going to extend, the format doesn't. Keep an eye on next month's article because I'm going to share a macro that will allow you to copy the spill range format very easily. Okay, so we can change these entries in the yellow cells and the report will update. So what we need is a way to add up the rows and the columns within this spill range, which is in cell D10. So currently the way to do that is to use the BYCOL, short for column, function, where you refer to the spill range, comma. Now what the BYCOL function does is it chops up the spill range into columns and then it passes it to the LAMBDA function. Now the LAMBDA function then takes that as a variable. I'll just use X, and then once you've got that variable, you can do a calculation with it. So in this case, we're just going to sum X, and that's it. So that structure, that's using three separate functions to add up the columns. Now, once you've done that, as you change the number of columns, the spill range will extend out to do the correct sum. And what we can do is we can cheat to some extent. We can, if I fix that range using the F4 key and put the dollar signs in, then what I can do is I can copy that and paste that here to do the rows. And instead of BYCOL, there is a BYROW function, and that does the same for rows. So if I change this one to one that has more rows, you'll see that the total spills down as well. As you can see, that's not a simple function. It requires three separate functions to actually work. So once you get to that sort of level of complexity where you might have three functions involved in a calculation, you can think about creating a custom function. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to convert these two formulas into a single formula that will add up this spill range either by columns or by rows. I'm just going to copy this over to here just so I've got a copy of it, and I'll copy this one down to here. Then I'll delete them. I'm going to use this. Actually, I'll copy it now, just the BYCOL part of it. And so what I'm going to do is create a LAMBDA function that is eventually going to become a custom function. So the LAMBDA function allows you to use inputs basically into a function. I'm going to give these inputs a couple of names. I'm going to use RNG, short for range, and then DIR, short for direction. They are the two inputs into my custom function. So we're going to expect a range, which is going to have the hash symbol on it, and then we're going to expect a direction, which is either going to be R for rows and C for columns. They will be enclosed in the quotation marks. Okay, so the next part is I'm going to use a special layout in the formula bar. When you're building a LAMBDA, you need to sort of separate it to make sense of it to some extent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a little bit higher, and I'm going to use a keyboard shortcut. It's Alt. I'm holding the Alt key down and Enter. So Alt Enter allows you to put a line break within the formula bar. which is what I need, because now I'm going to put a separate section here. So I'm going to use a function called switch. Now, switch is sort of like an if function, but it's more like a lookup table, like a self-contained lookup table within a formula. The thing that I want to look up is the dir. That is what's going to change. So it's either going to be an R, and in that case I'm going to use BYROW, or a C, and I'm going to use BYCOL as the calculation. So I'm going to use Alt Enter again. And so what I can do is I can enter the R, comma, and then I can copy in that BYCOL that I'd copied before, and I'm just going to change this to row. Now, this had our range as keyed in. So I'm going to make this flexible, and instead of using that, I'm going to use RNG. So that is one of the inputs into the lambda function. So that's now going to get transferred to this BYROW function within the switch function. Now, this is complex. I'm not suggesting this is easy, but you can spend a little bit of time learning how to build these custom functions. Once you've built the custom function, you can use it over and over again. So that's the advantage with custom functions. Now I need a comma here to break that up. So what this is saying is, with the switch function, look at the dir, which is either going to be an R or a C. If it's an R, then we're going to do BYROW and Alt Enter. If it's a C, and these need to be in quotation marks within the formula, I'm going to do the BYCOL, which I'd copied before, and I can select that and again use RNG. So that's the two entries for the switch. I'm going to close the switch, then I'm going to close the lambda, and I'm going to use another set of brackets. So this is how we test the lambda. This is not how you use it. So what we're building here is a testing function that is going to test our formula. The cell that I need to refer to is D10, and I want to use the hash symbol because it's a spill range, comma. Now in the cell that I'm in, which is D8, this is a column that I need to summarize. And so that is how you test it. So this custom function is going to take an input for a range, comma, and then an input for the direction, which is either going to be an R or a C. In this case, it's a C. And so that extra set of brackets on the end is how we test this lambda. So let's tick the box and hopefully it's going to work for us. And there we go, that spills across. And let's test it over here as well. So I'm going to copy that from there, paste it in here, and this time I'm going to change that to an R. Okay, and that's spilling down, so that's working as we're expecting. So here's how we take this, as I said, fairly complex formula and convert it into a custom function. You copy that part of it. You don't use the extra set of brackets. You copy that part of the formula. So you can Control C to copy it. In the Formulas tab, click on the Name Manager. The functions have already been created, but we'll create a new one. Click on the New button and paste the formula in the Refers To box. And that's it. We need to give it a name. I use a prefix of fn for function, and fn, now I've called this SUMDA. Now I'm not going to accept this because I've already got the function created, but that is the convention that I use. So I have a lowercase fn and then all capitals for the remainder of the function name, which in this case is SUMDA. The DA stands for dynamic arrays. So we can sum the spill range basically. You could call it SUMSPILL if you wanted. But I've settled for SUMDA just to keep the name a little bit shorter. Now in the comment section, you can put the description. Now I'm not a very good typist, so I'm not going to do that. I'll show you the one that I created earlier, and that's basically how you create it. So I'm going to cancel this because I don't need it. I've already got it. Here's the one that I created earlier, so I'll edit it. And there is that same formula. This is the description that I've used to show people how to use it. I'll go and input that into the cells now. So we're going to use fnSUMDA. I'll close those. Oh, and that's in the name manager. So I'm going to delete these now. And we're going to use so when I type in equals fn, I've got two separate custom functions in this file. The first one we're looking at is this one. So when you click on it, notice that everything that was in that comment section, that displays here. So that's helping the user understand what the custom function does. So that's the one I want. So I can hit my tab key. So notice that it does list just like a normal function. And I'm going to select D10 hash, comma, and in this case I need the C for the columns. And there we have it. So a very simple function now will add up the range. I'll get rid of these two now. I don't need them. And I will copy this. You can copy from the formula bar to another formula bar using Control-C and Control-V. This one is the R now. And there we go. So now I have a simple formula that will spill across and down to match a spill range, and that will work for any spill range. So it is flexible enough to work across files. If you just copy the formula to another file, that will actually take the custom function with it. So you will get the custom function come across to the other file, and so you can use it in another file. So there we go. So there is a sum custom function that will work for any spill range. It's going to add up either rows or columns. Okay, so let's have a look at another custom function. Oh, by the way, I have put these custom functions with some more in this formulas tab here in the companion file. I've given you sort of a description of each one. The next one we're going to look at now is for financial year. So it's fnFY. This one is choosing between a row and a column. This one is choosing between a year, a month, and a quarter for a financial year. So let's see how this one works. This is it in practice. So fnFY, you give it the date to work with, the ref. You give it a start period. So this one is flexible enough to work with any financial year. So some financial years start in April, some start in October, and ours starts in July. So this will work with any financial year. And then the last item is the value that you want to return, or the measure. So in this case, I've got a Y. So these are the three different inputs. So you can have a Y, an M, or a Q. And so a Y returns the financial year for a date. The M is the month number, and the Q is a quarter number. So that is the custom function in process. This is the custom function for testing. So this has that extra set of brackets on the end. There's another keyboard shortcut that's worthwhile when you're working with this type of calculation, and it's Control-Shift-U. So it changes the height of the formula bar. Now this one is a little bit longer. It's also using the switch. I'll take you through this one. So we are expecting a reference, which is a cell reference. We're expecting a number that is the start number, and we're expecting the period. So that is the Y, the M, or the Q. So three inputs. Now, this time we're using what's called the let function. So the let function allows you to use variables within a calculation. So very similar to LAMBDA, except with the LAMBDA, this value is getting passed. These three values are getting passed to these three variables. So this is the ref, this is the start, and this is the period, or PER. So they are the three values that get put to these variables, which are like arguments, if you like, within a function. Now the let function is a little bit different in that you can give it a variable name and then what the variable equals. So what we're doing here is, and this is a very common construct, is that the let function is using a very short variable, s, to capture the start. And a very short variable, m, and this is calculating the month of the reference. So this is the month number of the reference. So that's the date. The ref is the date we're working with. So this is returning the normal month. So the calendar month is the M calculation. Now we've got those two there, we can start figuring out what the financial year month is, so FYM. And this is the calculation. It's a little bit long, but basically once you take the month number, the calendar month number, you subtract the start number, add 1 to it. If the month number is less than the start number, you add 12, otherwise you leave it alone. So that will calculate the financial year month number. Now we can use that to then calculate the FYQ, which is the financial year quarter, by using the round up function on that month number that we just calculated, FYM. So you can use the variables within these calculations. So this shortens the formula a lot. Even though this is quite long and complex, it would be even more complex if we were using the calculations more than once. So once you've calculated a variable, you can use it as many times as you need within the rest of the calculation. I have covered the let function in other articles and videos as well. So FYQ, so that gives us we use the roundup. And then FY, we take the year of the ref, which is the year of the date, and then we add either 1 or nothing, depending if the month is greater than S. So this is basically figuring out if the month has gone over the year, because we're converting a calendar year into a financial year. So in this case, we add 1 to it if the month is greater than or equal to the start month number. So they're all the 3 calculations. We've done them separately. Now we can use this switch to, again, it's like a lookup table within a formula. So based on the PER, that period, so that's either a Y, an M, or a Q. Based on that, we're going to return FY for year, FYM for month, and FYQ for quarter. So they're the 3 different calculations we've made, and we're using those within this switch function. I've kept this on one line because it's fairly short, because we've got short variable names in it. And again, this is the testing format, the testing layout. These are the 3 inputs that we want to test in this case, which are the Y, M, and the Q, and we're using the date in column A and the start month in cell B1. So that's been tested. So if we start in April, if the 1st of April is your start of your financial year, then January is the 10th month. And as you can see, the 12th month is March, obviously. And if we switch that to a 10, so if your financial year starts in October, then January is the 4th month and in the 2nd quarter, and that's 2024. And back to our normal July. So that's a single custom function that is flexible enough to handle different financial years. It's returning the year, the month, and the quarter that you can extract from a date. So custom functions offer a lot of opportunities to capture your business rules and then be able to apply them easily in other files. So you basically capture it once, might take a little bit of time to capture it, to test it and get it right. Once you've got it, then you can use that formula over and over again and simplify other calculations. As you can see, this is a very short calculation to figure out, in this case, the year. Instead of having 3 separate calculations that you need for year, month, and quarter, you've captured them in a single calculation, and then you can reuse them. Highly recommend that you check out custom functions, have a play with them. As I said, this is the documentation for these 2 functions. Check those out. A good idea to use that comment section. You don't have to. You can leave that comment section out in the name box, but I highly recommend you use it because it can help the user understand how the custom function works. And having that prefix, by the way, brings them up at the same time. When we go into if we go into a cell and type in equals FN, we'll get then a listing of all of our custom functions, as long as you keep that naming convention going. I hope you found that useful. Thanks for watching.